Hey guys, it's your humble host, or a kid if you prefer. So I'm back with another video, and here we go again. I want you to listen to the beginning of something. I'm not going to play the full thing simply because of copyright and because it's a news channel and they're view and click hungry, so they're going to go after anybody who uses their stuff. So yes, for any of you who have not heard about the Uvalde, Texas school shooting, there's another one, and it seems that every time that we have something very particular going on in the news, one of these school shootings suddenly erupts. Now, I'm not saying that this was scripted, you have crisis actors. No, this is very much real. Lives were very much lost. But it always comes out how somebody knew something about the shooter, either received a notification and warned the nearby authorities, to which did nothing. This was the case with the Parkland shooter, as I'm sure is the case with our other school shootings, to where the individual was known to be disturbed, very angry, very emotionally uncapped. And it looks like this is the case once more. So I want you guys to listen to something, and I'm going to go off on a small rant because yeah. Let me make sure you guys can hear this. Yes, you can. Okay.
Back to that breaking news out of South Texas tonight, where at least 19 children and 2 adults were killed in a shooting at an elementary school. We now have the photograph of the suspected shooter, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos. CNN is now reporting a former classmate says Ramos texted him a photograph of a firearm and a bag filled with ammunition just days before this attack today. Ramos was shot and killed.
So, did you guys hear that? Ramos had sent a picture of guns and ammo to one of his friends just days before this broke out. I just watched another video on how the guns were purchased legally and that Ramos was angry because he wasn't able to graduate, and a fight broke up between him and his grandmother, and he shot said grandmother. And this school shooting itself was not something that was particularly planned. Ramos was actually fleeing from police, took off, and I believe his grandmother's truck crashed it right into the school and was pretty much shooting anybody that got into his way. So, I'm hearing for calls for gun control laws. Again, when they do nothing but hinder citizens from defending themselves. We used to have firearms in our schools. Now, I am not one of these people that's gung-ho. I am pro Second Amendment, but I'm also not one of these people that's gung-ho, stick every single type of gun into someone's hand or make it available for purchase. I do believe that there are reasonable restrictions, but are they calling for reasonable restrictions right now? No, they never do. And yes, people are like, well, you're a hypocrite. No, there's just certain things that, boundaries, rationale, common sense, those type of things. So, to my knowledge, I thought you had to be 21 to purchase a gun. And of course, I did see a tweet because you have Stacey Winnie Abrams, who's doing a run again for the governor of Georgia, even though she can't concede last time. And one of the biggest promises of her campaign was strict gun control. Let me point out how Chicago has some of the most strictest gun control laws, but some of the worst gun violence. It has been nicknamed Chirac, if not Gotham City. And for those of you who do not know, Gotham City is a fictional city out of the DC world, and more associated with the superhero Batman. Just in case I have anybody on my channel who is not familiar with who or what that city is. And that is the most, in the DC realm, one of the most crime-riddled cities with violence, drugs, trafficking, all that kinds of stuff, according to DC lore. So, with that being said, because I'm not going to sit here and go on a pedestal and go gung-ho either way, but at the same time, It is never about the guns because, again, if you use Chicago as an example, the bad guys are always going to get their hands on guns, whether they're scratched, if you guys know what that term means. Pretty much, guns have tracking numbers, so when illegal guns are shifted around, they're hauled around, moved around, transported, that number gets scratched. So there is no way to track them once that number has been scratched off the gun. And no, to my knowledge, it's not like the car with the VIN number, to where that VIN number or that particular tracking number is stamped in multiple parts of the gun. So, to my knowledge, guns have the tracking number or the registry number in one spot, and once it's scratched, the gun becomes untrackable and untraceable. So, because our leaders are wonderful human beings who seem to have lost their minds every time something like this happens, again, every time something like this happens, it's almost like it's let happen. Let me remind you a little bit about the Parkland shooting. The deputies were told to stand down. There were 5 of them. When there was one active shooter, the actual suspect shooter was known to be mentally disturbed. Reports of him were put into the FBI, but the FBI did nothing. So we have another case to where somebody knew something before the shooter went and acted. And now we have a tragedy, and once again, our children are sacrificed for this tragedy, for the push of what they call quote-unquote change. Gun laws will do nothing. Let's look at the countries who actually did the buyback program. Australia, and I believe the UK. You have more knife attacks, you have more odd crime over in those countries. Germany, I don't believe their citizens are armed anymore. And there's a lot of stuff that happens over there. As if you guys remember, a bunch of refugees went and were let into Germany, and their rape and assaults, sexual assaults, started to go up. So it's all an agenda, and unfortunately, it is on the backs of children's lives who were lost. It is on the backs of our people who care for our children. And I'm talking about actually care, not try to push disgusting things onto children. But gun control never works. If anything, our politicians, you guys have to realize, do not give a shit. You know the phrase, never let a good tragedy go to waste. Here we are, again, with our politicians screaming and squawking, acting like they give a damn, calling for gun control, which is the disarming of citizens, making it harder for firearms to be purchased by law-abiding citizens. Now, do I think that if you're mentally unstable, you should have a gun? Hell to the frickin' no. Do I think the buying process should be a little bit harder? Not really, because it really doesn't solve anything. Now, granted, each state is different. My last state, Illinois, in order to get just a concealed carry, you had to have what's called a FOID card. And that's just solely to buy and purchase, and the police had to run a background check on you, and you had to wait 2 to 3 weeks just to get this particular card. And then if you wanted a concealed carry, you had to provide 10 years of addresses that they could verify, to where the background check became extensive. Not only that, you had to be properly trained, and you had to have a certain amount of training hour-wise. You had to have the name and badge of the instructor that trained you, so they can verify that you were properly trained. And to make sure that the person that trained you was also legitimate. So I do think the 10 years of limit is a bit much, as not everybody has records or can remember where they lived 10 years ago, or have that history of 10 years. If you stay in one place, it's obviously not that hard, but for people who move around, it could be difficult. Anyway, this is not a get on my soapbox, support the NRA or anything like that, but I wanted to point out that once again, we have politicians who are acting like they give a shit. If you actually gave a shit, and wanted to prevent mass shootings like this, it is not about the gun. It is about the mental health of the people. It is about who you let into this country. It is about the culture surrounding the people who did the shooting. There is so many variables, so many facets that get ignored. All they want to do is go, oh, well, let's make guns harder to get. Great, and punish law-abiding citizens. Again, our politicians, 95% of them do not give a shit about children dying, do not give a shit about the education, and do not give a shit about the normal peon, the normal citizen overall. They do not care. So to act like they suddenly care, like, let me remind you of Stacey Abrams. Her biggest thing was gun control, but she couldn't concede that she had lost the last round because she has run for governor and lost spectacularly. She didn't respect our democracy. She didn't respect the voting process. She would not concede, and it took a very long time to yield. I don't even know if she ever officially yielded to her opponent, which I forget who it is. He was Republican. I don't live in Georgia, never have, so I'm not familiar with their politicians. But you guys get what I'm saying. We have politicians who use these tragedies to get into the power seats to where they unfortunately stay for quite a while and become incumbents because either of dark money, because of other messed up stuff, because they are paid by certain companies or lobbies to stay there as long as they enact certain laws. So I don't know what else more to say, but of course you have the sheep screaming and crying for gun control. You legit have parents who are scared for their children, scared for their teachers, scared for their own lives. From what I understand, summer was 2 days away. They only had 2 days of school. So again, anytime they want to push a law, anytime they want to try to make a change, it's never for the benefit, and children are always sacrificed. Somebody always knows something. So I am for, as I said, rationale, common sense. And common sense does not go, let's disarm the people. No, common sense, like, how about we actually, for once, because I know this won't happen, this is a pipe dream, wishful thinking, how about we actually start taking care of the mental well-being of our people, start actually looking at the cultures where some of these people come from. I'll give you another example. This is down in Texas, of course, is when you started to have more people from other countries, and I'm not saying every immigrant is this way, but we had particular individuals from the border of Mexico start to come in, and they started to rape and kill certain people down in Texas. So, and then we have certain people and cultures that come in that can't assimilate, and this is not I'm against immigrants coming into the country, far from it. But you guys see what I mean. It's the culture. It's the well-being of the individual. It's the mental state. It's the emotional state. It's what is going on. Somebody always knows something and does nothing until it's too late. And frankly, I'm getting really tired of this script. I'm getting real tired of this agenda. And for those of you who do not know what is frankly going on, because this is another distraction, unfortunately, our politicians, people around the area, felt it best to have children on the altar once again to push an agenda. Joe Biden is getting ready to sign away our sovereignty to the World Health Organization, who will have de facto power anytime they feel a pandemic breaks out. And for those of you who do not know what de facto means, that is, the power is granted whether it's a right or not. So, keep that in mind. Every time that something big happens and is going on, you always have a distraction. Now, like I said, it is always on the backs of children. Always, always they are put in the altar in some form of the other. So an agenda can be pushed, and I do believe this was allowed to happen again because there's other stuff going on. So why not have a unhinged individual go attack a school once again just to kind of take the attention away. And am I watering down the death? No, I think it's horrible that every time this happens, it is a distraction from something else, and again, once more the children suffer. So, to be clear of my points, it is not the gun, it is the mental well state of these people that do these shootings that's always ignored, that is purposefully ignored. It is the culture to which sometimes they come from, it is the well-being, it is their environment that is ignored. And when these crises occur, it is to push the agenda of disarming the citizens instead of actually taking care of the problem, which is mental problems and emotional instability. And then it is used as a distraction because you have a lot of people rightfully emotionally upset and scared to send their own children to school, to send their own granddaughters, nieces, nephews to school. So at some point, when it's not gun control, when are we actually going to call on the government? Because right now, any politician you see screaming or crying about guns, the evil tool that can be misused, what are their track records? I dare you guys to look. Because I could assure you, no politician screaming and crying right now about this has a good track record, has dark money from somewhere. You have some politicians who are saying F you to the Republicans, F you Ted Cruz, you baby killer. So here's what kills me. Because these are the same people that push and say, yes, it's okay to kill your child in the womb. They push for abortion laws. And then they scream and cry, oh, well, you can't be for pro-life if you're okay with children getting killed in the classroom. No, that's not what being pro-Second Amendment is about. I'm sorry. You guys can twist. You guys can, in your demented little brains, put together some narrative that's not realistic. You guys always do. But to try to go after Republicans for being pro-death, it's always a party divider, straight down the middle when you have Democrats calling Republicans the party of death. Again, it's the same script. It's the same freaking crap. You're gonna hear the same shit. We need stricter gun control laws. Oh, somebody knew something. Oh, this was revealed. Blah, 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 blah. So watch. It's the same pattern, and every time they fail to use this tragedy for gun laws and to cover up what they're currently doing at the time. Right now, it's Joe Biden trying to give away our sovereignty to the World Health Organization, among other things. You have another one that eventually pops up. I don't know what to tell you at this point. As I said, I'm tired of our children being used as a sacrificial lamb at the altar because our politicians really don't want to deal with the issue. They want to scream and cry, virtue signal, but at the end of the day, they give two flying figs for anything except for their own damn power chair. With that being said, I'm going to end it here, but mark my words, you'll get this same line of crap as you do in every single incident like this that happens, whether it be a store, a school, a public place. It never fails. With that being said, I will see you in the next video, and no, this one is not going to be monetized.